Hello and welcome. Let's tell you first what's happened in that big battle for Bihar. The battle that has gone on right through the day. This T20 kind of match, but which has swayed at every level before we finally settle down. And this is what we will tell you are the big numbers at the moment. NDA 123. Remember, halfway mark is 122. So just above it, down RJD 113. So a 10-seat gap. That's the RJD plus the Congress and left. LJP hasn't opened its account. Paswan's party, 7 others, and they include 5 of Asaduddin Owaisi. Take a look at the percentages of the political parties. If you take a look at where the percentages stand, NDA and RJD are 37% each. They are dead heat. RJD in particular has gained. We are comparing this, of course, to what happened in 2015, which may not be an exact comparison because the alliances were very different at the time. NDA is 37, LJP 6, but this is the critical number. Others 19, and these others 19 have really decided this election. They have fragmented the anti-NDA vote, and that is what has made this election so close. The other thing that you need to look at as we have entered the super overs is the marginal seats. Remember, 123 plays 113 is a very tight contest, and it gets tighter because of this. There are still 11 seats where the margin is less than 500. 11 seats. Just take a look at which these seats are. NDA leading in 5, RJD plus in 6. ADA, for example, where the margin at the moment is less than 500 votes. Bore, where the margin, again, the JDU this time leading by a very, very small margin of 300 votes. Chhapra, where Lalu used to contest at one time, at the moment here, you've got a situation where the BJP leads by just 56 votes. That's why this is not over as yet completely. But there are seats where the RJD also is leading by very small margins. So clearly, if you look at less than 1,000, very few left now, 26 of them, but in most of them we are told the counting is more or less over. RJD leading in 15, NDA in 10. But it is these seats, less than 500, NDA leading in 5, RJD in 6. If they switch around, and it seems unlikely now because we are entering the very final stretch. If there is any major switch there and the NDA goes below 120, then we may have a race there in Bihar at the moment. But clearly, the big story is that we've had a real cliffhanger of an election in Bihar. And we're going to go down into data to tell you just how this cliffhanger of an election has taken place and the key factors. I'm going to put out 5 reasons why we've had such a decisive verdict. I've got a stellar panel of guests. Rahul Verma of Center for Policy Research, Rahul Srivastav, our National Affairs Editor, Javed Ansari, Senior Journalist, Manisha Priyam, Senior Political Researcher, Analyst. Also with us, Rajat Sethi, who's tracked the BJP closely, worked closely in their campaigns in the past, and is an author himself. Swapan Das Gupta, Rajya Sabha MP, close to the BJP. So we've got all our bases covered, and we're going to ask them that big question, the big takeaway. Also, our guest joining us, Pawan Verma joins me at the moment. Jayant Sinha joins me. Pawan Verma joins me. And I'm also being joined at this moment by Naval Kishore of the RJD. So let me come to all of you for the big takeaways that you have and whether any side first politically is conceding defeat. We have seen Jayant Sinha celebrations in Patna and some in Delhi as well. Is the NDA home and dry at 123? Do you believe that Nitish Kumar will be the next Chief Minister, Mr. Sinha?
Rajdeep, having seen many elections over the years, I think we are now firmly in the lead. And even though some seats may swing our way, there'll be other seats that will swing their way. But I think throughout the day, we by and large held the lead. And so I think at this stage, we can quite definitively conclude that we are going to form the government, which has been our view all along. But there is a bigger story here, Rajdeep. And the story is if you step back and look across the country, you'll find that in every state, whether it is Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Gujarat, all of the different states that have gone to the polls in the by-election, the BJP has won and won big. And this is in a situation where, of course, we have gone through a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic. We have had a situation where, of course, in Bihar, We've had a 3-term sitting chief minister, and obviously you have to deal with the fact that there is always some anti-incumbency as a result of that. And despite all of that, we won a very, very definitive victory in Bihar, particularly for the BJP, and across the country, we have won very, very decisively, even in states like Telangana, where there was a real question mark whether we would be able to win the seat or not. So again, I think, as the Honorable Prime Minister has said many times, हम लोगों की विकास की राजनीति अब विश्वास की राजनीति बन गई है, और जो विश्वास बन गया है, the trust that the people have in the Honorable Prime Minister and the BJP to deliver for them, even with this global pandemic underway, is incomparable and is extraordinary. And I'm just amazed at what we are able to accomplish despite all of the factors that sometimes are arrayed against us.
Clearly you've done very well across the country. Bihar may be more contentious because the vote share of the NDA, now if we compare it to 2019, which some will say is unfair, Lok Sabha election to Vidhan Sabha, you've gone down. Clearly though, you have been able to beat back the critics who suggested that this could be a possible landslide for the other side. And to that extent, Pawan Kheda, are you willing to concede defeat at this stage? Or are we all going to be like Donald Trump and not concede defeat at any stage?
No, let the Election Commission come out with the final tally, and then there's nothing left to be conceded for either side. So I don't think we need to jump the gun, whether it's Mr. Jayant Sinha or me or any one of us, because there are 10 seats which RJD is very, very sure that there is something not quite right about them, because the returning officers are not really being very responsive when it comes to giving the certificates
I don't understand this. What do you mean by 10 seats are not quite right? I'm not able to understand, because when I showed just now in the margin calculator, there are seats where the RJD is also leading by margin less than 500 and seats where the BJP is also leading by less than 500. So why are you singling out 10 seats?
These are 10 seats which the Mahagathbandhan has won, and yet the returning officers are not giving us the certificates. Our people there, our workers there, our office bearers there are struggling, fighting hard. Let's wait for a decision either way. So, as I said, no point jumping the gun at this stage. Okay. We've waited the entire day. Let's wait for another couple of hours.
Okay, that's your perspective. Let's get in a few more reactions. Yogendra Yadav also joins us at this moment. Yogendra Yadav, I've given explanations for this Bihar verdict and I'm going to put them up at the moment. The first one is over 25% of the votes got fragmented because they backed others. This suggests that there was a large pool of people who didn't choose the Mahagathbandhan even if they didn't want Nitish Kumar. There was no consolidation of the Muslim vote, and this was particularly seen in Simanchal, where you had Asauddin Owaisi doing rather well, and he has actually damaged the MGB, we believe, in 10 seats. The third factor, women EBCs are likely to have stuck with Nitish Modi double engine. This is purely anecdotal at the moment. We cannot empirically prove this. The Congress failed to add weight to the alliance, pulling down the MGP is the fourth factor. And the LJP hurt the JDU, but the damage contained by the BJP's strong performance. Which do you think was the critical factor that explains this Bihar verdict, a fragmented verdict?
Rajdeep, let me begin by saying that at the moment we seem to have an outcome, but we do not have a mandate. The outcome is rather uncertain. No matter what you say, Rajdeep, I think even your channel would not wish to call the election. No channel would wish to call the election at this stage because we have results only in about 80-85 seats or so. In most other, these are leads which can in principle change. So it's an uncertain verdict, uncertain outcome. There is no mandate. Even if NDA manages to form the government, they would not be able to claim that they have a mandate to rule again. And if for any chance Mahagathbandhan manages to form a government, which you cannot rule out at this stage, they cannot claim that they have this big popular mandate to rule. On what went wrong, look, fragmentation is a routine reality of Bihar. There's nothing special this time. Independent, small parties always manage to get lots of votes. On the Muslim voter, yes, MIM made a difference. At the same time, on the other hand, you can say that LJP also hurt the JDU in a bad way. So in a sense, both these things cancel each other. Maybe LJP was more of a damage than others. Congress performed poorly, of course, there's no doubt. And Mr. Pawan Khera would be able to probably say something about it. Congress is increasingly a drag in any alliance that it's participating, which is something that should worry any Congress a potential ally. But to my mind, the one factor you mentioned, which is insufficiently noticed, actually may have made all the critical difference. Because once you put all these things on balance, you could have spoken about Muslim Yadav consolidation. On the other hand, there would be upper caste consolidation. The one less spoken factor which may have made a critical difference is actually the vote of women. Your exit poll showed, and the exit poll need not be correct in its prediction for its data to be taken seriously. I think it showed something very, very interesting. I looked at it closely. It shows that among women, the NDA had an advantage of 1%. 5 points. And among men, actually, it's the other way around. Among men, it's almost the same, which is to say, if it's 5% difference among women, for Bihar as a whole, it's a 2.5% difference. 2.5% of difference in an election where both the parties are almost tied in terms of votes. To my mind, that could have been the one thing which has made all the difference.
Okay.
We underestimate the fact that women have voted very heavily in this election. They have voted more than men do. And their swing of this kind could be very, very critical on the basis of information that we have so far.
Okay, I'll come to you all for more because I want to get everyone's viewpoint on the big takeaways. Let me come to you, Pawan Verma, because you've been a close associate for Nitish Kumar. He may well create history in a few days, become the first chief minister in North India to be sworn in for a 5th time. And then have a term which could extend up to 20 years. Do you believe, as is being suggested by Yogendra Yadav, whatever the numbers are, this is not a mandate for Nitish? Knowing him, do you see him being someone who will say, look, I don't want to be chief minister of such a arrangement. I would rather now walk into the sunset.
Well, you know, Rajdeep, the fact of the matter is Mr. Nitish Kumar must be acutely aware of it while the election unfolded and now, is that he has been done in. That's a big takeaway of this election. The close fight that you are seeing till the very end, the cliffhanger would not have been there, but for the LJP factor. And statistics point to the fact that between 23 and 35 seats of the JDU were affected by the LJP, and something I refuse to believe that Mr. Chirag Paswan was a solo actor in this game. So obviously, Mr. Nitish Kumar, and I have not spoken to him today, must be feeling that from becoming the largest party in spite of the anti-incumbency against him, he has been reduced to the 3rd largest party by one of the allies of the NDA with what seems to be a hand of benign benediction of the BJP.
Let me get, you're making an accusation here, suggesting it's a conspiracy theory that the BJP wanted to downsize Nitish Kumar and thereby emerge party number 1 and perhaps thereby control Bihar BJP. Some of us have said that even in our column writing, Jayant Sinha. Is there any truth to what Pawan Verma is suggesting? And therefore, will Nitish Kumar become chief minister of such a fractured mandate, if I am to use the word mandate and not verdict? Are you all clear on that? There's a huddle going on in his house. Do you believe that the BJP, which has got far more seats than JDU, should actually be the party which should run Bihar?
From the outset, the Honorable Prime Minister and all other senior leaders, including the party president of the BJP, have said that this election is being fought under the leadership of Shri Nitish Kumarji and that he will be the chief minister if we are able to get the numbers. So we have been crystal clear about that. We have said that anybody who's not with the NDA, anybody who's forging their own path are on their own. And we are very clear that we have the NDA contesting in Bihar, and we are going to really support the NDA and all the
But
NDA
this would be a
candidates.
with due regards, this would be a very strange arrangement where the party which is almost twice the size of the party 2 is now going to say we'll give you the chief ministership. Let's be honest, somewhere wasn't this a Shatranj game to checkmate Nitish Kumar? Use, some say, use Chirag Paswan, encircle Nitish, and now call the shots in Bihar. Is that true or not? This is the only state where you don't have a BJP chief minister, only North Indian state that has never had a BJP chief minister. Could this be the moment?
Everybody is welcome to speculate, Rajdeep, and in a democracy, you have to sell newspapers, you have to push your channel. So naturally, it is interesting to speculate. But the reality is different. The reality, as I have said, has been from the beginning, we have said that we are fighting this election under the leadership of Shri Nitish Kumar ji. He is the chief ministerial candidate and he will be the chief minister. And this is what the results are also showing.
So Pawan
we have
Verma,
been very, very clear.
Pawan Verma, Jayant Sinha seems to suggest you're a conspiracy theorist.
No. Jainji, I have no interest in the matter. I'm not even a member of the JDU, but it is plain for everyone to see. Chirag Paswan represents a party which is an ally of the NDA at the center. Chirag Paswan begins the election by saying he is the Hanuman to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and he hurls abuses at Nitish Kumar while being part of that alliance. Now, I believe that Prime Minister Narendra Modi carries the authority individually to have checkmated an ally who is abusing another ally and costing that ally very dearly in the number of seats. There's a 6% voter swing. And
well, there are two ways. There are two ways to look at it. There are those who believe that Narendra Modi actually ensured that Nitish Kumar did not suffer a bigger defeat. That's one way to look at it. He campaigned aggressively along with Nitish Kumar. So let's be fair to the Prime Minister there. The other view is what you're saying, Pawan Verma, that there was an attempt to downsize Nitish Kumar. So that's one conspiracy theory. Jayant Sinha is very clear. No change in the Chief Minister. Nitish will lead if the NDA has a majority, which they have at the moment. The other theory is, Naval Kishore ji, RJD spokesperson, कि कांग्रेस ने आपकी नैया डुबा दी. कांग्रेस 70 सीट लड़ रही थी, दे आर विनिंग ओनली अबाउट 19. आरजेडी 75 सीट जीत रही है, लेफ्ट इज डूइंग वेरी वेल. कांग्रेस ने आपकी नैया डुबा दी. क्या ये सही है नवल किशोर जी? कांग्रेस कमजोर कड़ी निकली?
नहीं, इस थियरी में कोई दम नहीं है, क्योंकि महागठबंधन हर जगह लड़ रही थी. आपने देखा होगा कि तेजस्वी यादव हर क्षेत्र पहुंचने का कोशिश किए और वहां पर जो अपील था वो हर जगह उतना ही था. और यही कारण है कि हम अभी भी आश्वस्त हैं कि सरकार महागठबंधन की बनेगी.
सर, वन मैन शो था नवल किशोर जी, वन मैन शो था. आप ये महागठबंधन नहीं था, ये आरजेडी प्लस था. अगर महागठबंधन होता तो आप पप्पू यादव को साथ लेते, शायद अगर आप मुकेश सैनी को लेते, मांझी को छोड़ने नहीं देते. आपने महागठबंधन नहीं बनाया, फ्रैगमेंटेशन की वजह से आप हार रहे हैं.
नहीं, उसमें आपको ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा कि जो लोग यहां से भागे वो सारे अपॉर्चुनिस्ट थे, वो आते जाते रहे हैं. जो अभी गठबंधन में है वो कभी बीजेपी में नहीं जाएंगे. वो दल में रहे, उनकी ताकत जो भी रहे, they will not go to BJP. One thing is clear, जो लोग यहाँ से गए हैं वो तो पहले भी वहां थे, हम पहले भी वहां थे, RLS पहले भी उधर थे. तो there was a गठबंधन on the basis of that we have certain kind of ideology to which we stick.
Okay,
और
so
उसमें हम लोगों ने सब जगह दम से लड़ा.
Okay, so you have no regrets.
एक बात और राजदीप एक बार हो कि अगर आप गठबंधन के चेहरे को और एनडीए के चेहरे को देखें तो गठबंधन के चेहरे ने एनडीए के चेहरे को मात दे दिया है अभी भी. और हमें लगता है कि ये ट्रेंड अभी आएगा और जो बदलाव की बात हमने की है, सरकार बिहार में बदलेगी और महागठबंधन की सरकार बनेगी.
I don't know how that's going to happen at the moment with these numbers, but Pawan Khera, I just want to understand that question. Has the Congress been the Kamzor Kadi? You contested 70 seats, you won 19. In fact, across the country, you've had a bad day in the office. As is being suggested by Jayant Sinha, or rather by Yogendra Yadav, that the Congress is a drag.
Rajdeep, now have you done a seat-by-seat analysis of the previous elections on these 70 seats? Traditionally, who do these seats go to? Now, are you trying to suggest that just because these are traditionally NDA seats, Congress should run away from the battlefield and say, no, we don't want to fight these seats. Obviously, someone has to fight these seats. There are various aspects on every seat of transferability of votes, whether the RJD vote, whether the left vote, will it get transferred to us and vice versa. There are several aspects. You can't just generalize and say, अरे कांग्रेस ने खींच के छीन कर लड़ झगड़ के 70 सीटें ले ली. ऐसा नहीं होता है. Negotiation में कई aspects होते हैं. You were not sitting in the negotiating meeting, nor was I. But anyway, we know for a fact that these are seats which are tough, which were not RJD strongholds, nor were they Congress strongholds. They were NDA strongholds. Someone had to fight.
So you were forced, you're saying, to fight 70 seats. That's an interesting...
No, I'm not saying we were forced.
Yes.
And, did I say that I was forced? I think you are also tired just as I am.
You're saying that you're saying you ended up fighting seats which were relatively unwinnable. Let me rephrase.
I'm not saying we were forced. First of all, please withdraw that word. I never said we were forced.
Okay, I withdraw the word.
Someone had to fight it.
Okay.
We happily fought it. We are very proud that we were more keen on ensuring that the focus stays on the fundamental issues on which we are in politics.
Okay,
employment, unemployment, livelihoods, these are the issues.
Let me stop you for a moment because I'm joined by someone who potentially could emerge as a kingmaker. Asaduddin Owaisi is now joining us of the AIMIM. Asaduddin Owaisi, what have you gone and done? You will be today called the betrayer of secularism by the Mahagathbandhan. I heard this on a channel a little while ago. Asaduddin Owaisi has betrayed the secular alliance. You've won 5 seats, damaged the Gathbandhan in 5. And the result would have been very different. Your response to what you've had, what you've seen today?
Rajdeep, it was you're the biggest mischief maker. It was your tweet which said I damaged in 5. What is this language from a senior journalist like you? Damage? Rajdeep, I was assuming that you don't represent Mahagathbandhan. But by tweeting you damage 5, what is that? You know, elections are won, parties win, parties lose. I mean, you are assuming that that the voter who has voted for me is a lifelong hostage and who has to work as a laborer on that political party, for that political party. Then do you want to keep democracy alive or you want democracy to be hostage to the political parties? As an Indian, I have a right to contest elections.
Owaisi, let me clarify. Let me clarify, you won 5 seats, which is a remarkable performance in itself, but there are 5 seats where the margin of victory and the votes you polled are high. So I use the word damage. I'm just asking you, what do you see yourself as someone who has prevented today the MGB from forming a government in Bihar and thereby allowing a BJP-led government? If this accusation is made against you, what is your response?
Well, see, till the day I live, these charges, these allegations which are baseless would be made against me. So what? You know, it doesn't make any difference to me. I believe in India's democracy, and by contesting elections, I am strengthening India's democracy, and I'm creating more confidence in those people who have lost confidence in democracy because of these political parties who have taken their votes and who have forgotten them, who are not able to raise their voices and solve their problems. So it doesn't matter to me, but will Rajdeep Sardesai ask the same question to that political party? Why did you lose seats in Gujarat? Why did you lose 2 seats in Karnataka, in Madhya Pradesh? Who's responsible for that? Is Owaisi responsible for that?
At the moment, the focus is on Bihar. In Simanchal, you contested 19 of the 24 seats, and that is where that has made all the difference. Victory versus defeat. That's all I'm saying. To that extent, Asaduddin Owaisi, your critics are alleging that you played the role of damaging, I use that word again, damaging the so-called secular cause. So-called.
Rajdeep, do you know that I lost a sitting MLA seat of Kishanganj? I didn't use that word damage. Thakurganj we couldn't win. Shergati we could not win. No, where is an end to this? This nonsense that the whole idea of these political parties who are making such allegations against me is that I should not contest. How dare you come and contest? How dare you stand in front of us? I will stand in front of you. I have a right to.
They seem to believe that you have cut into their Muslim vote bank.
But
they seem to believe that you have broken their Muslim vote bank. Consolidation of Muslim votes has not taken place.
Rajdeep, do you know that the tallest RJD leader, Abdul Bari Siddiqui, what happened?
He lost.
How did he lose? I can give you numerous examples. The problem is how and what makes these political parties say that Muslim vote. Boss, these Johnnies could not win 39 Lok Sabha seats in Bihar. And you know, if you win, oh, the Gandhi family, we won because of Gandhi family and Prince Charming. And if we lose, oh, Owaisi is responsible for that. No. What is this?
No, because in this election...
put an end to this nonsense. Do some introspection.
Introspection they have to do.
Do some introspection.
They have to introspect. They have to introspect, but you also maybe have to introspect that the seats you've contested may make all the difference between victory and defeat. No. Who's your enemy number one? Is it the Congress or the BJP? Who's your enemy number one?
Rajdeep, I have said this before, I'll say it again. They are two sides of one coin. There is no difference. One destroys equal opportunity by smiling, one comes with an aggressive face. There's no difference.
So if you are in a position...
The whole idea is that you should not contest. Why is Owaisi...
No, so if you have 5 MLAs and today the RJD, let's say, goes up to 118, will you support the RJD? Will you support the RJD-led alliance?
The minute final result, Rajdeep, let the final results come out. Let ECI tell BJP or NDA, Gadbandhan and all these political parties, respective political parties have won this number of seats. Then you ask me this question. As of now, neither you know, neither I know, because even your access poll...
Owaisi, everyone's eyes are on you this evening. Everyone is wanting to know who will you support.
What eyes?
People's eye, there is a sense you could be the kingmaker of Bihar. If these numbers change even slightly, you could be the kingmaker. I am asking you again, who will you support? If there are 5 short, will you support or abstain?
Rajdeep, you know, you can formulate whatever opinion you want. But our party spokesperson, who is an observer from MIM party in Kishanganj, has given a statement that our fight we started our political journey in Bihar with Justice for Simanchal, which still continues. And we have clearly said that there can be no compromise as far as the true secularism is concerned, not the secularism which has been practiced so far. That is the official stand of the party. Now, what numbers every political party will get, that in itself will tell you what shape of government or who will form the government. But definitely, Rajdeep, please allow me to complete. I will have to speak to my state president, Mr. Akhtar Ali Maan, who has won with a bumper majority of nearly 35 or 40,000. And he defeated a 6-time Congress MLA who in front of Rahul Gandhi said that we will break arms and legs of Owaisi and send him back to Hyderabad. The people of Amur have shown him his place. So I will have to consult my party people. We'll speak to them, we'll decide, and definitely we'll continue. Where is the question of copping out? Owaisi does not, it is not in my nature to cop out. I am telling you the facts.
Pawan Khera, you want to make an appeal to Asaduddin Owaisi on this show, that you would want him as an ally?
I don't want to make an appeal. That's not my brief right now. I mean, that's not my level. That happens at a different level. Having said that, he has absolute every right to contest from wherever he wants to. Nobody is questioning him on that. But there is a mutually reinforced radicalization that the Congress is opposed to. And I accuse Mr. Owaisi and his party of being absolutely a partner with the right-wing, majoritarian right-wing radicalization. There's no difference. The Congress is a centrist party equally opposed to majority radicalization and minority radicalization.
You know, the charge against the Congress is you also play minority politics and play vote banks, but you're accusing Owaisi of radicalizing. You're accusing Owaisi of radicalizing the minorities.
I am not accusing Mr. Owaisi of, I'm just saying counter-radicalization is not the answer to BJP communalism.
Okay.
Let Mr.
Owaisi respond. That's a provocative statement to which he should respond. Mr. Owaisi, you are accused of radicalizing Muslim element. You've gone into Simanchal, an area with very poor, some of the poorest districts of the country. You've reached out to young Muslims. You've attracted them to your side. According to Pawan Khera, it's an example of radicalizing Muslims as a counter to the BJP.
Well, Rajdeep, if I am being accused of radicalizing, I mean, what kind of answer is this? I mean, it shows the intellectual dishonesty of the Congress spokesperson who I hold in high regard. If I am contesting in an election, to contest to what? To ensure that these youths don't get radicalized. You as a party could not give them a voice. And you talk about radicalization? With what cheek are you saying this? In front of your great leader, your party contestant stood up and said that we'll break arms and legs. Is that radicalization or not? Your party people bet my party people in Amur, destroyed one car. What was that? Radicalization or not? You know, you lose every seat. You lose Delhi. Your MLAs run away to BJP at the waving of finger. What kind of politics are you practicing? You know, Rajdeep, that is the problem with Congress party, that they have this holier-than-thou attitude. They falsely assume that everyone should prostrate in front of Congress party. I will not do it. Your days have gone. You must wake up. You contested 70 seats. Do you know what is the problem now? 70 seats. And you accuse me of radicalization. It is... I mean, I'm shocked by what Pawan Khera is saying. A political party is contesting election. To what? For what? To ensure that radicalization does not happen. To ensure that people don't lose confidence in democracy. And then you say that, oh, because I'm contesting election, radicalization is happening. I mean, it is a joke to say radicalization is happening because of me. Who opened the Babri Masjid locks? Who did the Shilanyas? Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. Didn't that lead to radicalization? Who demolished Babri Masjid? Who was the Prime Minister? Didn't that lead to radicalization?
Fascinating.
Come on. You know, it's high time that you do some introspection.
Going to go back to 1989 and who did what. You know, it's but you can respond very quickly. Yes, Pawan Khera, very quickly, before I go to the others.
Mr. Owaisi, what did you achieve in Bihar today? You achieved singularly that Mr. Narendra Modi is smiling tonight. Well, hopefully he won't smile because we are trying to struggle our way. But that's what you achieved. That's what you tried to achieve in Maharashtra. So don't please be holier than thou and tell us that, oh, you are just fighting for secularism. No, you're not. You are strengthening the communal forces. And therefore, I accuse you of counter-radicalization. To us, the response to majority radicalization is absolute, unalloyed secularism. To you, it's counter-radicalization. That's my difference with you.
Okay, final word, Mr. Owaisi. You have to go to Aaj Tak. I know. Final word. Do you want to settle this once and for all? What is the role of Asaduddin Owaisi? Because election after election, this is going to come. The role of Asaduddin Owaisi, is it to damage the Congress and other parties and capture a large section of the Muslim vote and thereby perhaps become an enabler for the BJP?
Rajdeep, may I take half a second to destroy this false, specious argument given by Mr. Pawan Khera?
Yes.
Is Shiv Sena a secular party to you? Is Shiv Sena a secular party to you? Are you able, can any Congress leader can sit in front of those people who died in 92 December, 93 December? Have you read the Sri Krishna Commission report? What cheek are you saying? You sit with Shiv Sena and you do a honeymoon with Shiv Sena and you talk about radicalization. You are mainly responsible for bringing BJP into power. Your party leadership is totally incompetent. And may I say with a lot of respect to you, your leadership is politically important to take on Narendra Modi. It is because of you, Modi is in power. And as far as Owaisi's party is concerned, we will fight elections, win or lose, because our main job of political party is to strengthen India's democracy. And that I will do so long as I live, and I'll wake up those people who have been wrongly told that only because of secularism you have to vote for Congress. Forget about it. Secularism can be kept alive by political parties other than Congress also. And may I tell the Congress party, mind your language. This is not how you speak when there's writing on the wall in front of you.
Let's leave it deliberate in many ways. Much of what you've said, Pawan Kheda has responded. I want to give big breaking news at this moment that the Congress and the RJD have decided to go to the Election Commission in Patna. They are alleging that there are seats where the counting was stopped, they claim unfairly, and the seats were not declared, and they are questioning the entire election process. Big breaking news coming in that the Congress RJD has decided to go to the Election Commission in Patna. Yogendra Yadav, you've been quietly listening, and even so has Pawan Kheda, Pawan Verma, both of whom have written extensively on this issue of secularism and the role of sort of minority radicalization or minority parties, as they are called, like AIMIM. How do you respond to what you just heard from Asaduddin Owaisi? Is he right, or is somewhere Pawan Kheda right? Who's right in this debate?
Rajdeep, let me begin by frankly saying that I'm concerned. I'm worried about the rise of MIM, not just in Bihar, but also in Maharashtra and in many other places. I'm worried. Having said that, I think there are two things that we must acknowledge.
Let me stop you. Ande, they are entitled to contest in election. He says, why is the Congress blaming me if they can't pull their weight?
Rajdeep, he's entitled to contesting elections, and I'm entitled to be worried about their success.
Sure.
I was only saying, number one, that it is wrong to accuse them of betraying secularism. I think they never adopted it. He may speak that language. This is just like saying Shiv Sena has betrayed secularism. These are meaningless statements. Number two, there's one thing that Mr. Owaisi said which is absolutely true. He used the word hostage. And the harsh truth is that the so-called secular politics of this country, this is not just Congress, it also includes RJD, it includes the Samajwadi Party, it includes many of these so-called secular parties. They have used Muslims as hostage. And Muslims are sick and tired of this. And out of sheer desperation, out of sheer frustration, they have decided now, some of them have decided to go towards parties like the MIM. Remember, the real heroes of Indian Muslims were not Muslims. Nehru, VP Singh, Mulayam Singh Yadav, these were the heroes of Indian Muslims. Indian Muslims, except in Kerala, have never voted for Muslim parties except for Kerala and Hyderabad. If this trend is emerging, it is because of the massive failure of secular parties to present to this country a genuine secular alternative, to be able to not use Muslims as a vote bank hostage, but to actually attend to their real life issues. And if Muslims feel today completely neglected and they want to, in a sense, vote with their feet, the point is not to blame Mr. Owaisi, but actually to introspect, look within, and change the character of the so-called secular politics in this country.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Swapan, I'm going to cut it. Just hold on for a minute. We are getting Jayant in our reports that the RJD wants to go to the
say
election.
On this.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a one-sided narrative.
Go ahead, Swapan. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
The whole
Respond.
point is you've been suggesting for a moment
that
it is a Mahagathbandhan has been fractured. Therefore, everyone had to be included. Now, therefore, why didn't you include Owaisi in that? Owaisi has certainly proved his credentials there. You could have included. No, the point is, you say that Owaisi is unacceptable.
No, not
that's the largest. Therefore, everything must be in terms with something. Maji must come in, so-and-so must come in, everything, but on terms which they were set. And that is the thing which is there. That you've created an aegis whereby the dominance of the Congress or the dominance of the Congress-related friendly parties must be established as a precondition to your Mahagathbandhan. That is the presumption.
Do you think that's the flaw? Do you think that's the flaw in the entire opposition strategy in a way?
Absolutely. Secondly, you believe that Muslim consolidation. If I was to say, why hasn't there been Hindu consolidation? What would you say? You would accuse me of being communal. But yet you're nakedly promoting the idea that there should be Muslims must vote as a bloc. When they don't vote as a bloc, for whatever the reasons, which is why they voted, some of them voted for OIC, some of them voted for Congress, some of them voted for RJD, and some of them may have voted for JDU. You say that's a betrayal of secularism. Now, this is a strange logic which I've been listening to for the past half an hour.
Yogendra Yadav, respond to Swapan Dasgupta, and let Swapan respond. Then Swapan will respond to you. The fact is, and it comes down to this, that the Congress has been exposed.
That's broadly what I have said, that actually the rise of MIM demonstrates the hypocrisy of secularism in this country and the inability of secular politics to address the real life issues and concerns. Mr. Owaisi's party is perfectly entitled to contesting elections. He's perfectly entitled to fracturing a vote base if he wants to, because all new politics must begin by fracturing the older things. All I'm saying is that instead of blaming Mr. Owaisi is a symptom of a deeper problem, that exists in our politics.
Okay, Swapan, you want to...
OIC, you see, Mr. OIC, why has Mr. OIC succeeded in winning so many seats in Maharashtra? Why has he got it? Because he's made that claim that Muslims are being used as pawns by some of these political parties. And he's made a very emotional appeal, which is couched with a bit of, he's got a very nice and inflammatory way of speaking. Certainly he has...
You don't see it as Muslim radicalization as you're suggesting?
I don't see OIC, strictly speaking, as Muslim radicalization. I think it's a sort of political radicalization, not the sort of gun-toting radicalization.
Let me get Pawan Verma.
Therefore,
let me get Pawan Verma to respond to this.
I think Mr. OIC is a serious player. He wants to form a Muslim political party in India which will represent the Muslims on the basis that we can now bargain our way into various things.
Does that result dangerously into polarization and counter-polarization? What do you think, Pawan Verma? You've been writing extensively on this.
Let me say, Rajdeep, that this entire argument that I have been hearing assumes that voters, irrespective of their religious affiliation, have no mind of their own. Mr. Owaisi is perfectly within his rights under the constitution to fight to get Muslim votes. The response to that is not to urge Muslim vote consolidation as against Hindu vote consolidation. It is for those parties which have claimed to be secular to introspect on why they have not been able to get the support of a particular section of the electorate. Why has there been selective use of secularism? What Yogendra called the hypocrisy of secularism. If you have lost credibility with the voters in terms of asking for their fealty, you cannot blame another party for being able to obtain it. We must treat India as a mature democracy and not claim this kind of counter-polarization and consolidation of votes. Hindus or Muslims vote with a mind of their own.
But the fact is, in Simanchal, the kind of rhetoric that was used, Swapan, particularly in the last stage, you had leaders from both sides appealing to religious constituencies of theirs, whether it's a Muslim vote bank or, dare I say, a Hindu vote bank. And there was a sense that that polarization has reflected also in some parts of Mithilanchal, in Kosi, in this area. Are you saying that's the way politics should be practiced? Do you believe that that's, appealing to Hindu vote bank, appealing to Muslim vote bank, जो भारत माता की जय नहीं बोल सकता वो भारत छोड़ दे, Article 370 becomes an issue in the manner it's played out.
Article 370 is an issue.
No, in the manner in which it then gets played out on the ground, saying those who are against Article 370 can go to Pakistan. Do you believe that?
I wouldn't say go to Pakistan. I don't think so. But I would certainly make Article 370. There's nothing wrong in
some
bringing
of the
in some
rhetoric on the ground. Are we consolidating, pitting Hindu?
Rajdeep, Bharat Mata communal according to you. भारत माता की जय,
जो भारत माता की जय नहीं बोलेगा वो यहाँ नहीं रह सकता.
तो इसमें communal कहाँ है, Rajdeep?
My point to you is this kind of rhetoric in an area like Simanchal,
this is a
which is one of the poorest areas of the
nationalistic rhetoric. Where is it communal?
Where is Simanchal? Why is it in an area like Simanchal? What is so specific about Simanchal?
Because you've got a large Muslim majority area with where effectively the battle seems to be polarized Muslim votes on one side and counter-polarized on the other. Do you believe that is effective politics? And it wasn't just in Simanchal. As we are seeing in the numbers, it has spread to parts of Kosi and Mithilanchal as well. Do you believe that is effective politics? Yes, Manisha.
the small story of Bihar which has led to this big debate, there are also some prior events. M.A. Fatmi, for example, a long-time ally of Shri Lalu Prasad Yadav ji, he's left the RJD, gone to JDU.
His son contested from Darbhanga.
Yeah, and then you've got an Abdul Bari Siddiqui losing the election from the RJD from that area. You've also got an RJD now that does not want to repose its trust in Shahabuddin, on which Lalu Yadav's entire political strategy hinged on, and because of which the BJP was able to consolidate all of the Om Prakash Yadav, the mandalized castes in Siwan area went over to the BJP. Whether it is, Shri Chamarji or Om Prakash Yadav ji, they were all mandalized caste people. So that happens in that part. So I think the square responsibility is that of the RJD. There was a Taslimuddin in the Simanchal area. There's a decline of Taslimuddin. His son stays here, goes there.
Is it therefore that the parties, let's be clear, parties like the Congress and RJD, which claim to wear the halo of secularism, are seen to have betrayed Muslims, particularly poorer Muslims, who are attracted therefore...
Rajdeep, they haven't, just one last line. They haven't simply worked on an elaborate Muslim leadership in the area. One person to whom I think the management of the entire area was contracted out, that leadership falls for whatever implicit reasons, I don't know, then I can't see any broad leadership.
No, I'm asking you that for years the RJD was seen to... RJD was seen to be driven by the MY alliance, the Muslim Yadav alliance. And Lalu earned his reputation by arresting L.K. Advani in Bihar during the Rath Yatra. My question to you is, maybe the wheel has come full circle. There are Muslims in parts of Bihar who are looking at options. And Simanchal, the poorest part, where income levels are lower even than the national average, has perhaps decided maybe Owaisi is a better challenge for us. At least he's talking our language.
Yeah, so Lalu arrested Mr. Advani, became a hero, and they repaid him handsomely. He was twice voted to power. But nobody is a bondage for life. And I have always believed that there's too much of noise associated about this Muslim vote, Muslim vote, Muslim vote. As a consequence, there is a greater consolidation now, and you see it in the last couple of elections. There's a greater consolidation of the majority community vote, and there is a fragmentation. Look at Muzaffarnagar, look at Bijnor, look at Meerut, look at Saharanpur. There are half a dozen Muslim candidates. So
the reason I'm asking you this very interestingly, Tejasvi Yadav had tried to break out of this. Every rally of his, he says, "Main nahi baat karunga dharm ki, main nahi baat karunga jati ki." Right? But at the same time, he was obviously hoping that the Muslim vote would consolidate around him.
I think what is a bigger crisis is that the Brahmin, the Dalit, and the Muslim were the Congress's core vote banks after 1952. The Congress first lost the majority vote, the Brahmins and others, to the BJP because they felt aggrieved that this party does not address our aspirations. Then you had these parties like RJD and a Samajwadi party in UP and Bihar, which took over the Muslim vote bank, Mullah Mulayam, Lalu Prasad Yadav, of the minorities. But they are now feeling aggrieved that not just the Congress, but these parties also don't address our aspirations. They have to go to an Asaduddin Owaisi, who somebody may call radical. But eventually I talked to a senior AIM leader in Patna, and he said, हम कहाँ वोट कटवाएं? हमारे तो वोट कटवा MGB है. महागठबंधन हमारा वोट काट रहा है.
Yes, very quickly now.
हाँ, quickly. I think मैं नहीं बात करूँगा धर्म की, मैं नहीं बात करूँगा जाति की. Is playing to the gallery. Yeah. These two fault lines, religion and caste, are the master narratives of Indian politics. Political parties always mobilize on these issues. Without these two fault lines, you cannot have politics in India.
Okay, I'm reaching the end of this debate, and then we'll go to the numbers back of Bihar. Yes.
Just 30 seconds. Why is it that every time, and all of us in the media, Muslim vote bank, nobody talks of when Yadavs vote overwhelmingly for Yadavs, or Thakurs vote for a particular party, or Dalits vote, nobody talks. Only Muslim vote bank. You create this monster, this specter, and what happens is that then you have a polarization, and then you start blaming everybody.
The classic case is Sharad Yadav, born in Madhya Pradesh, winning elections in Bihar because he was a Yadav.
Okay, so we've had Yadav vote banks in the past. So what is to stop Owaisi from cultivating his Muslim vote bank could be the argument. But clearly that has damaged the Congress in this election, which it itself has not performed. So, you know, Pawan Khera, before you blame Owaisi, you'll also have to, I hope, take some responsibility of not delivering. Whatever the reasons, the Congress cannot escape its own responsibilities. You can't, if the Muslims want to look at options, you'll have to accept that and change yourself, redefine your secularism.
Rajdeep, it's not on secularism that we need to need anyone's certificate or we need to redefine ourselves. Yes, we may have a lot of explaining to do in terms of the way we have ignored the aspect of building our cadre. Fair enough. You can blame the Congress on several things, but not on secularism or on the way we understand secularism.
Yeah, with the I always made the point. You tie up with the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra to form a government. That's okay.
I wish I was given the chance to counter that point. If you want, I can counter that point.
Please, quickly.
Shiv Sena, today's Shiv Sena is reinventing itself like never before. All parties reinvent themselves. You can't keep talking about yesterday. You have to talk about tomorrow. I mean, after all, in this entire election, that's what Nitish did. 15 साल लालू के याद करो, अरे सब आगे की तो देखिए, तो आप ये बार-बार कहते हैं शिवसेना, शिवसेना, शिवसेना is a different Shiv Sena today.
Okay.
So you can't blame us of, you know, because we've joined hands with Shiv Sena, both of us are communal. No, none of us is communal.
Okay, you know, I just have a couple of minutes before we end this part of the show. I just want to get Jayant Sinha and Sunil Singh to respond to the big story that's breaking. The allegation that the Election Commission needs to be questioned is being spoken, Jayant Sinha, at the moment in Patna. The RJD Congress planning to go to the EC, questioning the way in which certain seats have not been called where they were leading. How do you respond?
Every party has the right to go to the Election Commission, and they should go to the Election Commission if they think that the election has not been conducted fairly. But I'm very confident, again, because of my long experience with elections, both at the national and the state level, that it is very, very difficult to do anything unfairly in our elections. Our elections are done with very high integrity, very honestly, and in the full glare of public spotlight. So I think they are welcome to appeal, but I think the Election Commission will take the right decision, as it always does. But I want to come back to something that was being discussed, Rajdeep, very, very quickly. Sure. You know, this discussion that we're having right now about secularism and, you know, who's consolidating which vote bank. The reality is the part that you're missing in that conversation is that the central pole of politics now in India is the Bharatiya Janata Party. And it is because we have delivered for the people. We have built trust with the people. If every woman has now got a gas cylinder, if every woman has now got a toilet, if every woman has now got electricity in her home, it's because we have done the work, and we've done it at the national level. And as the Honorable Prime Minister said, double engine ki sarkar, we've done it at the state level.
But you're also accused of majoritarianism. How would you respond to those who accuse you of practicing majoritarianism? It's a double engine.
We have various fringe parties peddling speculation, peddling theories. But at the end of the day, people are smart, they are wise, they know who's working on their behalf and who's delivering on the ground. They know that, they understand that. Okay. And that's why we win election after election.
Okay, I want to get a final word from you, Sunil Singh, as we conclude this of the JDU. आप ही की तो सरकार बनेगी ना? 122 is exactly halfway. सरकार तो आप ही की बनेगी, Sunil Singh ji?
Rajdeep, I am fully confident of NDA government in Bihar. But as for the RJD people going to the Election Commission, I mean, I'm reminding you for before a few hours, Manoj Jha used to come on TV and used to talk in a sense that you call it a Trump syndrome. They're always blaming, we are winning, don't go. Either he fears that there will be some kind of a panic among the RJD people, so he wants to keep them hold, keep them engaged, that something unfoul thing has been done. But, you know, the Election Commission, he has got a right to go. Sure. But the kind of a narrative that he's drawing, he is questioning Election Commission rather than giving kudos to Election Commission, the way they have conducted elections during Corona time.
Trump is complaining against mail-in ballots. And here we are finding that the RJD is complaining against the seats that have gone all too close. That's the big breaking news that's coming in at this moment. RJD Congress to move the Election Commission. We're going to have more on that, but it's been fascinating talking about secularism and talking about what constitutes secularism at election time. And I think we need to, as the likes of Owaisi continue to build their own influence in different parts of the country, this is going to remain a fascinating topic. Some of my guests in the studio will remain as we go into the hard number crunching. Swapan Dasgupta, it's well past your bedtime, I presume.
Yes.
And therefore, I'm going to ask you a final word. What's your biggest takeaway of this Bihar election?
I think the biggest takeaway of this is that, you know, contrary to the earlier narrative, that the NDA, or more specifically the BJP, has lost its momentum. And therefore, and that has come to a head during this COVID crisis. I think that has been very conclusively dispelled.
Despite you're just one seat over the halfway mark.
Secondly, that the geographical expansion of the BJP has been stopped. That was also the thing, that it's reached a complete saturation point. And that, I think...
You don't agree with the Yogendra Yadav theory? This is no mandate, this is a fractured verdict.
I'm not suggesting that there is a complete mandate. This is, by and large, a very inconclusive... It's a very half-half thing. It's a very, very divided house, Bihar, in this thing. It's not a categorical mandate by any subject.
But you believe it's a reprieve for the BJP in a way at a time when the critics have suggested that management of COVID economic distress will work against them?
I believe that that is there, and also that the geographical expansion of the BJP, which started in 2014, is still continuing. And I believe that there is an election next summer where I hope that it will be complete.
Okay. And I was wondering when you would mention the battle for Bengal, the mother of all battles.
And Swapanda, did we just hear the prospective Chief Minister of Bengal speak?
I think that's your imagination.
Now that, Swapan Dasgupta versus Mamta Banerjee might sound delicious, but is not quite, I think, on the menu at the moment. Okay, let's leave it there. We're going to come back in a moment. Jyotiraditya Scindia, among others, will join us. Some of our guests will remain because I haven't given them enough of an opportunity to give their perspective to this election. Back in a moment, you're watching our continuing coverage, Battle for Bihar. It's 123 plays 113. One side has gone to the umpire. That's what's happening. Super overtime. Back in a moment.